Welcome to Transformation with Martine. Martine Emmons is a transformational life coach who broke free from childhood abuse, sexual trauma, and overcame cancer to become a powerful force of healing and hope for others. Martine describes traumatic events as fierce emotional tsunamis. They can leave impending doom and destructive tidal waves of emotions that hit you when you least expect it. Martine helps her clients dive into the depths of their trauma and pain as she stands fiercely advocating for them to shine a light on those experiences and find the lesson in the pain. She serves as a beacon of hope that guides you to see the strength, lessons, and purpose that can be born from the pain. You can feel alive with purpose again when you awaken your dormant strength, step into your power with a sense of peace, and discover a new wave of hope with the right tools and support. Martine and her guests are here shining their lights today through empowering stories of hardship and transformation to inspire you to find hope and to see that there is a beautiful blue ocean of serenity, happiness, and fulfillment in your future. Transformation with Martine starts now.
Welcome, everyone. I'm so excited to be back. Welcome to Transformation with Martine. And I'm always get a little bit emotional, but today's a little better. For those of you who don't know, my show is the second and fourth Fridays of the month, and it's 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, and 12 Central. And my show, again, for those of you who don't know, is all about hope. I myself am proof, and all of my guests are proof that there's absolutely nothing we can't get back up from through the grace of God and through our resilient spirits. There is nothing we can't get back up from. So today, I knew I needed to wear red today because my awesome guest, Mary Whitman Ortiz, and we've been running around in the same circles for a while, entrepreneurial circles. And today we are going to talk about limitless intimacy. Oh, I like this. I love this, actually. So welcome, Mary. Please introduce yourself.
Oh, wow. I am so thrilled to be here and just love everything that is happening through you. And we can never get enough hope, can we?
Oh, no. It's what we need. I think all of us as humans, we always have to have hope. We always have to have a sense of belonging, connection, and our sense of higher power. I know you and me, we believe in God, and I know everybody has to believe in something, and maybe not everybody believes like we do, but I know you and I do. We believe in God. And so I'd like to start the show off, if it's okay with you. You and I have a lot in common, and one of them is sexual molestation as a child. It's so uncommon. I actually don't know any women that have not dealt with this.
Wow.
None. I don't know any that have not had that in their lives. And I know for me, what started the healing process for me was actually being at a coaching retreat. And our coach led a fellow entrepreneur through a process. And she was just like, she goes, I still don't understand why. I am a daughter of a pastor. We didn't talk about anything in my home,
Sure.
But why did this happen to me? Why did this happen to me? And she just could not let that go, even with what she was raised in. And he said, have you ever thought that maybe there's nothing wrong with you? It's just your light was too bright for the person who hurt you. And that's been healing for me a lot, because the person that took my innocence when I was 4 years old in a park, my favorite park, I just, and my parents, they were Catholic. they went to the priest about it, and he said, don't do anything, because the wife, the man who hurt me had cancer, and he wasn't going to make it. And she didn't want him left. She didn't want her left knowing she was married to a monster.
Wow.
As an adult, I can kind of see that, but I still wanted somebody to protect me.
Oh, for
What
sure.
do you think? What do you think? Like, what was your, if you don't mind sharing some of your story, or just what you learned from yours?
Sure. I never asked why. And now that you're saying that, I'm like, well, this is interesting that I didn't. I probably assumed so much was my fault.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was the route that I took with it. And with the neighborhood boys in my situation where those activities happened, you're so ashamed, and who do you tell? And how could I tell my parents? These were their best friends, so to speak. So I just internalized this shame and, what's wrong with me kind of thing. And I know that was in conjunction with low self-value. Because things weren't talked about, your inner thoughts and feelings and ideas didn't have space to grow. So you just remained with how you saw yourself. And whenever there's a wound like that, when other things come to you in life, it's like magnetic and it's attracted to it, which means the original wound just grows. And another analogy, it snowballs. It just keeps attracting more and more activities until something interrupts it, something gets your attention. And that can be so many different things for people.
Right. Right. Yeah. It's, you don't know what to do, especially if you're a young person, right?
Right.
I just remember telling my parents, and I can still see my dad like braced into a doorway, like he's kind of like holding on, like, and just bracing. And my mom just, like, I was laying on the couch or something, I wasn't feeling good, and she just kind of was there, and
Yeah.
and I remember later in life saying that they probably should have done something about it. Probably
Right.
should have, because it happened total of 3 times, one with a cop and one with a really close friend of the church as well. But still, I don't know. It just left me with like, gosh, I'm not worthy enough. I'm not good enough to protect. What is wrong with me? Like you said.
Right.
But the whole healing that happened with my friend and colleague, that, yeah, maybe my light was too bright. Maybe yours was too bright. That to me said a lot. It made me do some healing. And it also, I actually wrote about it the other day, that I used to not love nature as much as I do now.
Huh.
And I was wondering, I had another, one of my master coaches that actually done a live on this, or like on nature, and just like getting ready to up level his life. And I remember, when he was talking about nature, and I'm thinking, gosh, why do I love it so much and I didn't as a kid? Well, that was where the first incident happened, outside my favorite park. That's why, that I kind of stayed inside. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So something else that you had said in the information that we had talked about, you felt you were ill-equipped for your first marriage. How come?
Yes. So that low self-value place between the inappropriate sexual behavior, between a family that was dysfunctional. Dysfunctional does seem to be very common. Common is not normal. Normal is not healthy. But anyhow, that was the background. So I wasn't used to expressing myself. I wasn't used to my point of view being valued. And in my first marriage, my husband's personality type was very dominant. And in a traditional understanding of the church and roles, back in this time period, it was almost just assumed that the male figure, the husband, would lead with almost aggression, but certainly assertiveness. So I just kind of fell into that role and that pattern. And I had read a lot of marriage books, but still, it's when you read something with your existing filter, you are going to perceive what your filter guides you to. So I didn't have a new filter. And with that old filter of I'm not good enough and nobody really wants to hear me, that must mean they don't love me. That must mean I am unlovable.
Yes.
Those were those foundational lies that were in my life. And just it crippled me. And then when I'd add to that, when I found out that my former husband was addicted to pornography. And that was another layer of I'm not good enough in the world in general. And now I know I'm really not good enough for him. In my mind, I thought if I was good enough, he wouldn't have chosen this other form of meeting his needs. He would have, chosen me. So the pattern just kept repeating itself.
So the unlovableness and the unworthiness and the fact that he was this dominant personality, that was probably pretty scary.
That is certainly an accurate word. But I didn't acknowledge that I was afraid. I probably went to a place of anger and denial. Because even if you can say that you're afraid in a situation, that's a huge step forward of courage to acknowledge it. And it took a long time before I got to that place.
Right, I imagine. So what would be, we're going to break in a few minutes, but what would be, what is, say, one step right now? What's one step that you took?
Stopping to acknowledge your own feelings. And these feelings are not good, they're not bad, they're just feelings. Emotions are a part of the total human experience. So being able to identify them and say, hey, it's okay that I'm feeling fill in the blank. And knowing that your feelings don't define you, but your feelings do give information about who you are and how you're experiencing life.
Yes, we talk about that a lot. It's like sometimes all these feelings come bubbling up, and I would always, I've never been someone who was drawn to alcohol or anything. This is not my thing, but sugar. If I don't want to feel a certain way, let's go get some ice cream. Let's have a brownie. Let's do this. I don't want to deal with any of this right now. And I've learned in not only training to be a coach, but through my clients as well. And just this work that I've been in for, so many years, since my 20s. You really need to sit with those feelings. They're there to teach you. They are there to help you grow. So when we get back, let's go a little bit more on that, and then some more steps into taking in your own journey of finding your power again.
Okay, sounds good.
So we will be back in a few, and thank you for joining thank you everyone for joining us on Transformation with Martine, and we will return soon. I am so honored and privileged to be here with my guest today, Mary Whitman Ortiz. And she and I would like to welcome any of you who have questions about intimacy, sex, overcoming, to please give us a call at 800-930-2819. We welcome your questions. Our producer will put you through. So when we left, we were talking about steps of coming out of feeling unlovable, unworthy in our marriage, her marriage. And we talked about one step. What would be another one, Mary?
Oh, goodness. Well, when we talk about feelings, I want to add a more descriptive place with that. And this didn't originate with me, but feelings make good passengers and terrible drivers.
I love that.
Want to include them, but you don't want to let them take control. And I've even heard them compared to your children, meaning if your child is not of age to drive, you wouldn't put them in the driver's seat. But at the same
Right.
time, you're not going to lock your child up in the trunk of the car. You
Right.
want them to be involved. So just to have
Yeah.
an honor and a respect for feelings, knowing some people are afraid to even feel because they think if they just start the process, it'll be out of control. It'll be out of their control.
Right.
So knowing that those moments, and so I would encourage people, take 5 minutes. Let this be your walk. Let it be your coffee break. So being
Right.
able to have regular times to explore your feelings. I know people work in office buildings, and I'm like, while you're in the elevator and you're in between meetings, appointments,
Right.
calls, whatever, to give yourself that, and when you can, the more you do it, the easier it is to recognize and release. And that way they don't
Yes.
reroute your day, and you get to show up like you really want to show up, and not carrying the baggage of whatever those feelings stirred up in you.
Absolutely. You know, something we talk about and talk about control. None of us want to let that go, right? We all want to be so in control. And you and I both know that we're not in control of a whole lot. You know, so in my coaching community, we also talk about, you know, all of us get down on ourselves, especially if we've been in a relationship that wasn't unhealthy. We get
Sure.
down on ourselves, and these we call it the self-abuse room in my coaching world. Like no one beats ourselves up or hurts ourselves as much as we do. And we often talk that, all right, we feel this fear, and fear can come with us, but we're going to take action anyway. But fear is going to go in the back seat of the car. They're not going to be a driver at all. They're back there. So I love what you said about that. Good passengers, terrible drivers. And our feelings definitely are there to help lead us. Our emotions are there to help lead us, just like our intuition. You know, definitely there to help lead us. So you realized at a certain point in your marriage, what point was it when you realized, you know what? I am lovable. I am worthy. This is not what a healthy marriage looks like. When was that for you?
So it wasn't while I was still married, or at
Okay.
least I had just the hint of it. I was the one that filed for divorce, even though it was against everything that I believed. But at the time, it seemed as if my husband was unwilling or unable to face the damage that the pornography had caused. So I at least had enough understanding to say, hey, I can't live like this anymore.
Right.
So there was that initial step. And what was very interesting, I love how God uses things around me to teach me. And we
Yep.
talked earlier about families not being sort of a safe space to
Right.
share your grief, your hurt, your pain. They don't share your happy stuff, but not
Right.
the things that make people uncomfortable. So even after the divorce, I was still had a lot that hadn't been released. And I remember watching this would have been 2011, I'm going to say, there was a horrific tsunami
Oh
in
my gosh.
Japan. And I saw video footage of these people. They're just distraught. Their lives are torn up. Their
Oh my
families are
gosh.
gone. The infrastructure, it was just wiped away. And I thought, that's how I feel.
Oh,
They
wow.
showed with their expression, with the frenzy around them, how I felt internally. And so, in a very weird way, I got a little bit of a release watching that and being able to
Wow.
cry with them, even though they were complete strangers. And that
Right.
was the first wave, if I follow that analogy, that was the
Yeah.
first time that I saw how big my hurt was. And I also knew, just like these families, this entire area, I still wanted to live. I
Mm-hmm.
still wanted a better way of life. I did believe that there was more for me, and
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't willing to give it all up. And I had to move away. Oh my gosh, lost my home, my family, my church, my friends, my work, just on and
Mm-hmm.
on. And so I was at the bottom, and God had opened a door for me to go back to school and get my master's degree.
Ah.
And I was hanging out with 20 somethings, and I thought, oh God, you're just kind of sneaky. You wanted me to have a fresh look at life. And I just sort of rolled back the clock about 20 years
Right.
and started over.
Oh my gosh. Wow. And I love your analogy about a wave. Isn't that it? It's just the rolling of the water, and I can't imagine a tsunami, but boy, talk about starting over, right?
For
And
sure.
just having that analogy. Oh my, I cannot imagine that. So you got the divorce and you decided to do your master's degree.
Mhm.
What happened after that? What subsequent events happened after that to lead you on your purpose?
Right. I began to talk to women who had gone through similar situations.
Mm-hmm.
And that was also so powerful. I had identified it in myself. I had spoken it out loud. I had heard other women, and now I didn't feel like I was alone. So personally, it was encouraging me. And every time I had a new wave of understanding and truth and insight, I would share it. So this was natural. I mean, I'm a teacher by education. I'm a teacher by personality, and I just continued to share. Well, I was speaking at some different conferences and ended up in Florida, and just an amazing job opened up, and I moved and continued to have that fresh start. So now I was meeting new people who knew me as I was presenting myself, didn't know my past.
Mm-hmm.
And that was very refreshing. How do I want to show up? But I had learned so much from my past that I thought it's still a part of me. And
Mm-hmm.
I want to let the a message come out of my mess.
Yes,
And
I
yeah, that
relate.
so that opened so many doors when I saw that I could communicate in a way that was bringing hope, that was bringing encouragement, and was bringing practical steps, because you got to walk
Mm-hmm.
it out. You can't
Yes, you
just
do.
hear it. I mean, it's wonderful to hear it, to identify yourself, to get a layer of freedom, but you want that resiliency to walk it out. So the more I did that, I was coming alive, and I thought, this is exactly what I want to help other people do, is to
Mm,
get that breakthrough, to not
yes,
give up on life, to have the skills
yes.
and the strength to go forward and rewrite their story.
Oh, I love it. That's it. It's perfect. We're going to take a break and talk more about it. But where now can people find you, Mary?
Oh, that's great. Yeah, my website is marywhitmanortiz.com.
Awesome. Awesome. So when we come back, we will be talking more about marriage, steps into having a glorious, limitless intimacy.
Mhm.
And all right, so we'll be back soon. Thank you, everyone. Welcome back to Transformation with Martine, where we overcome everything and compromise nothing. I am privileged and honored to have my guest today, Mary Whitman Ortiz, and we are talking about purpose, passion, and how we got to these purpose and passion. And so, Mary, we left off talking about how your life took a huge turn, how you went through, well, a very difficult time, and how watching a tsunami that happened in Japan give you a release and a healing, and a new purpose came in
Mm.
of getting your master's degree and, well, finding a new life, especially being put with young people. So you discovered your purpose in this time. What were the steps that led to that? I understand getting your degree and all that, but what was God telling you? What I love this part. Like what was he telling you to do, and what were those steps?
I think I knew I was on the right track when I saw how I felt alive and that I just loved what I was doing. So I was still getting freedom
Mhm.
myself at the same time. And it was my um, speedy version of getting freedom is to recognize the lies that you believe about yourself. So that's all of the not good enough messages,
Yes, for sure.
but realizing that's not where I'm going to stay. And I want to kick out those lies, but
Mhm.
replace them with what is the truth. And
Mhm.
for me, I'm going to believe what God says about me,
Mhm.
because that is my ultimate source for my self-value. And that's also not a one and done, which sometimes gets people a little confused. This is a
Right.
lifestyle.
Oh,
This
yes.
is that ongoing encouragement and reminding yourself you are not at that place where you used to be. You have chosen to see yourself the way God sees you, and God it sees you with eyes of love, and to
Mhm.
continue to believe I'm always worthy of his love because I never earned it to begin with. So
Mhm.
I can't earn any more because you can't earn any. And just to enjoy what that place is, and just
Mhm.
to have ways to keep yourself encouraged and to choose those
Right.
people that are going to walk with you and see the best in you like you're seeing the best in yourself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I fully agree with that. Gosh. So so you work with women about sex, shame, having an absolutely healthy marriage. How did you know that was it? Like what took you to that place? I guess that's what I mean.
Sure. I didn't look for that.
Hmm.
I wasn't really going to go there. I was just enjoying find your purpose, find your passion.
Yeah.
But I did have some wonderful coaches in my life who said, Mary, have you considered that you have gotten so much victory in this area that you now have that place of authority and that place of anointing, and you can speak into other women's lives? And I gave it about 24 hours of prayer and talked to my husband, still not knowing what this would end up like, but felt completely assured that that's what I needed to do and wanted to do. And it continues to progress because I was working with women only. Now I work with couples. I
Hmm.
work with couples um, privately. I do groups, retreats, I mean, on and on, written a book, have a YouTube
Uh-huh.
show, I'm starting a magazine. So it just every way that I can make this message appealing and approachable, I want to, because there has been so much shame. There's misinformation, there's missing
Mhm.
information
Yes.
about what healthy sexual intimacy in marriage looks like. And that is my goal, is to give that in a fresh presentation so that
Mhm.
it's no longer taboo.
Right. Oh, yes. So as we talked a little bit on break, I was raised in a house where it was not okay. It was a dirty thing. Sex is a dirty thing. We didn't talk about it. Like I told you, I didn't even know about my cycle, my period as a woman. I didn't know about any of that until I just happened to discover it through friends. And the good part about that is that I made it a completely open household in my own home, raising my kids. There have been some things that my kids have come to me with that I'm just like, oh my God, I wish I wouldn't have been asked that, but I always talk. I answer any questions that they have, even when they were really young, only, give a little bit as much as they need, and maybe not any more than that.
Appropriate.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So that was the lesson I got out of that. But I really had a lot of trouble in my young life because this is my second marriage as well. So I had trouble just feeling right, or feeling like, oh, that's not good. That's dirty, or whatever. It took me a lot to kind of heal those parts of me as well.
Yeah.
Did you find that with yourself? Do you find that with the women you work with, that a lot of people feel shame?
I do see that over and over. Yes. And there are not the examples of what healthy intimacy is.
Mm-hmm.
And both in our culture and then even in a church setting.
Mm-hmm.
The what's portrayed on media is all of these hookup relationships that there's no value for the other person, there's no
Yeah.
commitment, there's just trading in each other. Of course, drama is what attracts an audience, so I understand that,
Right.
but that's not reality. And
Mm-hmm.
then in church settings, in a religious mindset, there is that idea of we don't talk about it, and it's dirty, and it doesn't belong here, which couldn't be further from the truth, because God absolutely created it, sexual intimacy, to be a gift to marriage. And if you go all the way back to the Garden of Eden in the book of Genesis, you start to unpack and say, woohoo, everything God created, he said, it is good. So it's about us shifting our mindset to let go of some of those myths we believe, and to embrace the truth that it really is.
Right, absolutely. So from all the work that you did post divorce, how did you meet your hubby now? How did he
We
come
met
into your life?
online, a
Yeah,
Christian dating site. Yes, yes, we did.
that's Eric and me, Christian Mingle.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Oh, you did too?
Uh-huh.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I know there was a lot, and for us, it was kind of funny because I was in California and he's in Michigan.
Oh.
Yeah, and it was just like I was not really looking for somebody quite at the time. I
Mm,
just wanted some friends. I wanted male friends to kind of bounce ideas off of.
right,
And I
right.
saw his picture with his boys, and I thought, God, he's cute. And and we had seemed to have the same parenting style,
Oh,
and we just hit it off. 8 months later, here we are.
wow,
So
wow.
yeah, how about you guys? How
We were in the
did that
same
go?
city,
Okay.
um, but and as it turns out, I was teaching at the time, and he attended a church that met in our auditorium on
Mhm.
Sunday. So I was like there
Okay.
Monday through Friday. He was there on Sunday. Of course, we never saw each other, but you
Yeah.
start to go back and find some of those little coincidences. And actually, I dated 5 years because I had no idea what it felt like to be respected and valued and be comfortable in my own skin and
Right.
grow my confidence. But my husband is so relaxed and fun to be around. He didn't pressure
Yeah.
me. He just invited me to show up however I wanted to, and it was a God thing for sure.
Oh, it's beautiful. I feel that way too. That it was definitely because it's like, Michigan and California, is that crazy? That's what he thought. And I just said, just friends. Let's just have an open mind. Let's just be friends. And then
Yeah.
he flew out to meet me within a month, and then we kind of knew. But so before we head to break again, what? Let's see. What? Actually, this is what I love to do, usually at the very end, but I want to say this now before break. Say you meet somebody just on an elevator, or you're standing in line at Starbucks or whatever, and a woman just happens to start talking to you,
Mm.
and she is having a rough time in her marriage. How would you encourage her?
The first thing I would let her know is that it's very common
Mm-hmm.
that couples struggle talking about intimacy, most couples.
Right.
And intimacy may not be what they say to you, especially if it's a complete stranger, but that deep feeling of connection, that is what is hurting. That's what is missing out. And to let them know, this happens to so many people, and there are steps that you can take. It is a learned skill to grow the intimate connection in your marriage. So it's not like you have to grow another hand or a foot or something. That's impossible. It's just a skill that can be learned.
Yeah, and it's not easy. Communication in marriage is not easy. It's not. And a lot of the hurt feelings come in, and it's I think it's always remembering that you came together for a reason, that you love each other, and to remember that even when things are going on in here, you got to take what's going on in here and take a look and realize that, we love each other and we can work it out. And I know full well that, well, as you do, it takes two. And if both of you are not willing to do those steps, it's not going to work out.
Right.
So how can people find you again?
Sure. My website is marywhitmanortiz.com.
Awesome. And my website as well is martineemmons.com. And both of us are coaches, different areas, but we are both absolutely happy to help you. So we will return soon, and we will dive into having an absolutely wonderful, loving, connected marriage when we get back. Thank you, everyone.
Very good.
Welcome, everyone, back to Transformation with Martine, where we overcome everything and compromise nothing. My guest today is Mary Whitman Ortiz, and we're in the final part of our show here. And I want to remind everyone, if you have a question, please call into 800-930-2819. We would love to answer your questions. So Mary, as we finish up the show today, what is your best advice, and how would you work with a lady coming to you now who is struggling in her marriage, who may grew up possibly like me, where it was not a topic that was discussed, or it was shameful, or just struggling in her marriage overall? What is the best way to connect with him again, and how would you lead them?
Oh, just something simple like that, right?
Yeah, just something simple.
Well, I think there's three components, and we've touched on this a little bit already, but self-value is huge, because you are bringing yourself to the situation, and you can never expect your spouse to meet all of your validation needs. It's impossible. They can't. You've set them up to be God, and they're not. So it's doomed. They can't do enough. And anyhow, so you getting your self-value yourself, and if you're turning to God, or how what you're remembering about those wonderful traits in your life. So that's super important. Growing connection is going to be easier if you value yourself, because you will be more comfortable to take a risk and to be vulnerable, learning how much information to share, when to share it. So connection and communication go hand in hand. To make communication easier, I suggest a communication tool called a daily temperature reading. And hey, if you can at least do it weekly, it helps. But there are levels of communication. So you cover the news, you cover some praise and some encouragement. You finally get to some things that you're concerned about, even a request for change. You give an apology for, hey, take ownership for whatever you've done this week that maybe you were a little selfish with. And then you also can share your dreams, your wishes. When you're in the middle of adulting, sometimes you forget that you have dreams, and fun is actually a priority. So I encourage that type of communication. And then in regards to sexual intimacy, just realizing, hey, there may be holes in your understanding. You may have missed some pieces that will help you. And it could be something so simple that I'm having a discussion in my group right now about how did you learn to flirt? So that's
Yes.
like there's not much there, but my goodness, the layers are there. And it's really fun to have those conversations with your spouse. What does flirting even look like to you?
Right.
And that could have been a missing piece of information. So having all of those components at work at the same time is going to make your marriage stronger for sure.
Right. You know, that reminds me when you said that about the flirting. I cannot remember what movie it is, but there's this one scene. I want to say it's something with Meg Ryan. So this is an old movie, but and you can't tell at all, like when there's when the scene first comes on, but I mean, she flirts to this guy like you wouldn't believe, and it is so cute, and that's her husband. But she shows up at the bar or wherever they were for dinner or something, and she just comes on to him, and it was so cute especially when you find out, like, and he'll be like, oh wait, did you get my laundry? At the dry cleaners or whatever it was, like, oh, that's her husband. It was so cute. And I know myself, I love to do stuff like that, like just like, wow, you're looking pretty hot today or something. And then, like, want to go out with me? Wow, what would your husband say? What would your wife say? And just kind of, play like that. I always think that's fun. And what I have learned too, especially the second time around here, is ask for what you need.
Mm-hmm.
And I know we've had a lot of talks in my coaching world. I coach under Lisa Nichols. I've learned so much from her. She's fabulous. And there's a lot of men that will chime in, and this is a good one for our young producer too, who is going to be married soon, that a lot of us women so often expect our husbands or our boyfriends or whatever to know what we want.
To be a mind reader.
Exactly. That is something I've learned, like, yeah, I may think that he may know me that well, but maybe not. And I need to own that. That, okay, he didn't realize this is what I wanted. Well, did I ask for it? No.
Right.
I think that is so important. How about you? Do you?
Oh, I completely agree. We put them at such a disadvantage, and then we get mad when they don't know. And then we close the door to connection. We create those walls and we stomp off. And it's like, wait a minute, part of that, a huge part of that fell on me. I didn't just put those words out there or write a note or some way communicate. So you can over communicate, but that's really not the problem that comes up. So the problem is that you don't communicate enough, or you assume that the other person understands everything that you said. So there's some interesting turns with that. But if you get clear in yourself, and this is assertiveness, know what you want, know how to ask for it.
Right. So what if a couple, generally they're pretty good, but what if they've kind of hit like a
roommate phase?
That's exactly what I was going to say. So you read my mind. Yep. What would you offer for that?
Well, certainly ramp up the flirting.
Yeah.
So we need to be intentional, get some more dates in there. And I don't like just dinner and a movie. Of course, now theaters are closed. You can't even go to the movies. But I always encourage things like community involvement. Hey, go clean up at the river, or go serve in a food kitchen, something that puts you outside your comfort zone. You're learning about yourself. You see your spouse with new eyes. You had no idea that, oh, you like that, you feel that way, that triggered that in you. It's getting acquainted in a fresh way, and then you make the most of it. What did you think when we did that? What did it make you feel when that person said that? How would you do that differently? So each situation is like a new gold mine to go mine for those nuggets and continue to build the closeness.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I know my husband and I just decided we're going to take up kayaking. It's something that interests both of us. And just to get out of, like you said, the normal dinner and a movies, it just gets old. It's like all we do is go out to eat. Like, okay, we need something else here besides food. So we thought of that. We thought of, I've always been fascinated with martial arts. And I thought it might be kind of cool to like archery or something. So I love your idea though of volunteering.
Mm-hmm.
And that definitely, you see a whole new side of somebody that way.
Yes, yes. And there
Right.
might be a little fear that they go through in this new setting, but that
Yeah.
can also, you can relate that. Hey, when you went through that, this is how I felt in a
Mhm.
situation. So you
Right.
can build more connection with that.
Right. Right. And there's also, I don't know, like trying something new like that is definitely going to lead to something else.
Yes,
You know,
yes.
like, ooh, what else? Plus, I don't know if you agree. I think double dates are great.
Oh, yeah, sure.
I think that's a lot of fun because then you could find things, you know, that they do, or even like with Florida, it's not so much the same, but Michigan gets awfully cold. It's
Mm.
fun to do double dates even at home, cook some food and just hang out together, you
Right,
know.
right.
So it's just, it is like I said before, it's just remembering who we are and what we committed to, and just really loving one another.
Mm.
So, Mary, I'm so absolutely thrilled and happy that you're here with me today. Thank you for sharing everything you did. And where can people find you again? And even an email address, that would be great as well if somebody, you know, just wants to write you a note or something.
Be fun. My email is hello@marywhitmanortiz.com.
Perfect. And then your website is marywhitmanortiz.com as well.
And my
Okay.
YouTube channel also, Mary Whitman
Okay.
Ortiz. Yeah.
Yes, subscribe everyone. You will not regret it, and reach out to Mary. She's wonderful, wonderful person to hang out with. And thank you everyone so much for joining us. Next show will be in a couple weeks on Friday, and at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, noon Central, and we will see you all then. Thank you again so very much for joining in. Remember, there's always hope. We can always get back up. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Transformation with Martine. Did listening today spark a sense of hope and possibility? Hold on to this feeling and tune in every second and fourth Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific for more inspiring conversations with Martine and her guests. They will show you there is hope, and you are right where you need to be. Martine is dedicated to supporting you right where you are while launching you towards promise, passion, and possibility that leads to the fulfilled life your heart aches for. If you're tired of being stuck, schedule a complimentary consultation with Martine and get on the exciting path towards the life you want to be living. Visit martineemmons.com and make your appointment today.